A deaf village was falling asleep under the gray sky, as if nature itself was holding its breath. In the distance along a broken road a man was walking slowly as though every movement was deliberate, like those who return, not just home but to a past they are afraid to discover. It was Nikolai, a senior sergeant in reserve. After 3 years of service in a war zone, he was finally stepping on his native soil. Tired eyes beneath his brows looked ahead with anxiety. In his hands, a battered army backpack and a small plush rabbit with a red bow. The toy smelled of a foreign city, a shop and hope. He had bought it back at the unit, imagining how Liza, his daughter, would exclaim "Papa," and rush into his arms. The village greeted him with silence. No dogs, no people. Even the wind seemed afraid to disturb that strange stillness. With the years, it had grown even more decrepit. Behind every window, darkness; behind every fence, indifference. He approached the house, crooked, dirty, as if long forgotten. The grass in the yard was overgrown, the fence broken. Nikolai stopped. His heart tightened. Where was Liza's mother? Where was Liza herself? He pushed the gate. It let out a plaintive creak. On the porch lay a broken child's sandal. He walked up to the door. Knocked. Silence. He knocked louder. Still no answer. Breaking the latch, he stepped inside. The house was cold, empty. The smell of mold and mustiness. In the kitchen, dirty dishes, dust in the corners, rotten bread on the table. His heart pounded wildly. He rushed through the rooms. Empty everywhere. A dusty crib, the sheet crumpled into a ball. On the windowsill, a broken doll without a head. He went outside, walked along the house. Somewhere in the distance came the squeal of pigs, like a desperate cry. He stopped, listened intently, and suddenly a quiet, barely audible sob. Through the grunts and rustling of straw, he followed the sound. Behind the house, next to a rotting shed, stood an old pigsty. The door sagging, windows boarded up. From there came the sound like someone crying in their sleep. He carefully pushed the door creak. Inside it was dark. It smelled of manure and fear. His eyes gradually adjusted to the gloom. And then he saw her. On a pile of hay right next to the pen in the corner lay a girl, wrapped in burlap, barefoot, dirty, thin, with hollow cheeks. Her hair was tangled, her face bruised. Her little hand clutched an old rag doll. She was sleeping and sobbing in her sleep. Nikolai froze. His chest tightened as if struck. He slowly approached, knelt down. He recognized her despite the dirt, despite the exhaustion. It was Liza. His Liza, the one for whom he had walked through hell, for whom he had survived, for whom he had returned. He wanted to shout but couldn't. A lump rose in his throat. His hand trembled as he gently touched her shoulder. "Liza," he whispered. "My little girl." She flinched, woke abruptly. Her eyes opened wide. In them pure fear, hopelessness. She recoiled as if struck, but suddenly recognized him, and her lips quivered. "Papa, is that you?" He embraced her. She pressed against him, trembling all over. He felt how thin she was, like bones, as though she was disappearing right in his arms. He didn't know what to say. Tears streamed down his cheeks. Real man's tears, of pain, of rage, of helplessness. "I came back. Forgive me. I didn't know. If I had known, I'd have killed them." Liza sobbed softly. She asked no questions. Her lips whispered only one thing. "Don't leave, please, don't leave." He covered her with his jacket, held her tighter. And in that moment Nikolai swore. No one would ever dare hurt her again. Never. Nikolai stood in the pigsty, clutching his daughter. His strong arms, accustomed to weapons and the cold of the front, now trembled with helplessness and pain. He looked at that frail, emaciated body and could not believe it was Liza, the same little girl he had left 3 years ago, with a bow in her hair and a smile from ear to ear. Now her skin was pale, her eyes empty, her childhood stolen. He lifted her into his arms. She did not resist. As if she had already learned to obey everything, even cold, even suffering. He wrapped her in his army jacket and held her close. She whispered quietly, "Papa, I thought you were dead. Mama said you would never come back." Nikolai clenched his teeth. His face remained still, but inside everything boiled. His daughter's words were like bullets. He wanted to ask, to shout, to demand answers, but he couldn't. Right now, only one thing mattered: to protect. "Where is Mama?" he finally whispered, trying to sound calm. "She left with Uncle Pasha a long time ago. She said I was in the way. She left me food, but then never came back." Liza fell silent. Her voice grew quieter, as if afraid that if she said too much, she'd be left alone again. Nikolai walked out of the pigsty, carrying his daughter in his arms. The sun was already setting, the sky turning steel. He walked slowly but with determination. In the yard, people began to gather, neighbors, old men, women. They recognized him. A whisper ran through the streets. Nikolai has returned. That's his Liza. God, she's alive. He stopped in the middle of the street. His gaze was direct, firm. He did not shout, did not accuse, just looked at them. And in that look was everything. Anger, pain, contempt. You all knew, he rasped. You saw, you heard. She lived in a shed. She cried at night. You walked past, stayed silent. The crowd was silent. Someone lowered their eyes, someone turned away. Old Maria Vasilyevna quietly crossed herself, whispering a prayer. The men stood quiet as children. Remember this face. Nikolai turned his head to Liza, who quietly pressed against him with her eyes closed. This is my daughter. My everything. She survived without you. He did not speak loudly, but every word was iron, a sentence. He looked into the faces of those who not long ago smiled at his wife, brought bread, talked about the weather. I am no longer a soldier, he said. But if any of you so much as lay a finger on her, I will become again what I was at the front. He turned and walked down the road, leading to the old homestead, where his parents once lived. There remained a small hut, a shed, and an old apple tree. There he would build anew. There she would sleep in a bed, not in manure. There would be a home without fear, without betrayal. And in the village, they stood in silence for a long time. Some wept, some shamefully went home. But no one dared call out to him, because everyone understood they had lost. And he had regained not only his daughter, but also his right to be called a father.